Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "Here now, Adonai has kept me from having children, so go in and sleep with my slave girl. Maybe I'll be able to have children through her." Abraham listened to what Sarai said. It was after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she conceived. But when she became aware that she was pregnant, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarah said to Abram, "This outrage being done to me is your fault. True, I gave my slave girl to you to sleep with, but when she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me in contempt. May Adonai decide who is right, I or you." However, Abram answered Sarai, "Look, she's your slave girl. Deal with her as you think fit." Then Sarah treated her so harshly that she ran away from her. The angel of Adonai found her by a spring in the desert, the spring on the road to Shur, and said, "Hagar, Sarai, slave girl, where have you come from and where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarah." The angel of Adonai said to her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority." The angel of Adonai said to her, "I will greatly increase your descendants. There will be so many that it will be impossible to count them." The angel of Adonai said to her, "Look, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to call him Ishmael." God pays attention, because Adonai has paid attention to your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man, with his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, living his life at odds with all his kinsmen. So she named Adonai, who had spoken with her, El Roi, God is seeing, because she said, "Have I really seen the one who sees me and stayed alive?" This is why the well has been called Bir Lacha Roi, well of the one who lives and sees. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the son whom Hagar had bore Ishmael. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. When Abram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly." Abram fell on his face, and God continued speaking with him. "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Abram, exalted father, but your name will be Abraham, father of many. Because I have made you the father of many nations, I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant, to be God for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you a land which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God." God said to Abraham, "As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep, between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. This will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household, and those brought and those bought from a foreigner, not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person bought with your money must be circumcised. Thus, my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, because he has not taken my covenant. God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are not to call her Sarai, mockery. Her name is to be called Sarah, princess. I will bless her, moreover. I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, will a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael could live in your presence. God answered, no, but Sarah, your wife, will bear a son, and you are to call him Yitzhak, laughter. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant, for his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzhak, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. With that, God finished speaking with Abraham and went up from him. Abraham took Ishmael, his son, all the slaves born in his house, and all who had been bought with his money, every male among the people of Abraham's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that very day, just as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were circumcised on the same day. And all the men of his household, both slaves born in his house and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Adonai appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat down at the entrance of the tent during the heat of the day. He raised his eyes and looked, and there in front of him stood 3 men. On seeing them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, prostrated himself on the ground, and said, my lord, if I have found favor in your sight, please don't leave your servant. Please let me send for some water, so that we can wash your feet, then rest under the tree, and I will bring a piece of bread. Now that you have come to your servant, refresh yourselves before going on. Very well, they replied. Do what you have said. Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, quickly, 3 measures of the best flour. Knead it and make cakes. Abraham ran to the herd, took a good and tender calf, and gave it to the servant, who hurried to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and a calf which he had prepared, and set it all before the men. And he stood by them under the tree, and they ate. They said to him, where is Sarah your wife? He said, there, in the tent. He said, I will certainly return to you around this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son. Sarah heard him from the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, I am old, and so is my Lord. And I, too, have pleasure again? Adonai said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and ask, am I really going to bear a child when I'm old? Is anything too hard for Adonai? At the time set for it, at this season next year, I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, saying, I didn't laugh, because she was afraid. And he said, not so, you did laugh. The men set out from there and looked over toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to see them on their way. Adonai said, should I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do, inasmuch as Abraham is sure to become a great and strong nation? and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by him. For I have made myself known to him, so that he will give orders to his children and to his household after him, to keep the way of Adonai, and to do what is right and just, so that Adonai may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Adonai said, the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so serious, that I will now go down and see whether their deeds warrant an outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before Adonai. Abraham approached and said, will you actually sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Maybe there were 50 righteous people in the city. Will you actually sweep away the place away and not forgive it for the sake of 50 righteous who were there? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous along with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shouldn't the judge of all the earth do what is just? Adonai said, if I find in Sodom 50 who are righteous, then I will forgive the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, hear now, I am but dust and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to Adonai. What if there were 5 less than 50 righteous? He said, I won't destroy it if I find 45 there. He spoke to him yet again. What if 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I won't do it. He said, I hope Adonai won't be angry if I speak. What if 30 are found there? He said, I won't do it if I find 30 there. He said, here now, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Adonai. What if 20 were found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I won't destroy it. He said, I hope Adonai won't be angry if I speak just once more. What if 10 are found there? He said, for the sake of 10, I won't destroy it. Adonai went on his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place.